Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the McFarlane, the 7 Deadly Sins, Escanor. Now, I'm not familiar with the TV show, and I think this figure looks kind of dumb, but it was a free figure sent to me by McFarlane. For those of you that order from the McFarlane toy store regularly, you've probably gotten some free figures from them. It came along with this letter here. Dear McFarlane Toys customer, on rare occasion we tend to come across toys that have lost the battle on their journey to our warehouse. Basically, they have some damaged figures, and this one is barely damaged. But a welcome addition to my collection because it's free, even though I don't really want it. So let's take a look. As you see, 7 Deadly Sins, Escanor. He's got like a 16 pack of abs, ridiculous. 7 Deadly Sins on the side. It's slightly ripped. It has a little cut in the plastic here. Beyond that, it appears to be in pretty much perfect condition. Here he is, posed up on the side. He's come with this giant weapon thing at the bottom. There's his barcode. So with no further ado, let's open him up. Alright, now that this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He has a display stand, and then his axe. Before I take a look at all that, let's talk about and check out the figure. So this is Escanor from 7 Deadly Sins. It's an anime. It takes place in medieval times. He's a human. He's very scrawny during the daytime and big and massive when he has his powers active. He obtained his powers from the power of sin from a fallen archangel. He's super strong. His strength grows as the sun is out, so in the middle of the day, he's at his peak strength, probably 1, 2 o'clock. His axe is his sacred treasure. It's the divine axe Rita. It's sort of like Thor's hammer. No one can lift it besides him. When he holds it, it enhances his power even more. So that's a summary of the figure and his accessory. Now, I have a lot to say about this figure. He is the dumbest looking figure I've ever seen in my entire life. His proportions are just so exaggerated. I know some people out there are like, well, all McFarlane proportions are exaggerated. He looks like a typical McFarlane figure. Not like this. Look at this guy. He literally has an 11 pack of abs. He's so top heavy you can't stand him without bending his knees. He just looks goofy, and that's part of the point. He's an anime figure, they're exaggerated. I've never seen 7 Deadly Sins. As I walked by the store and I saw this guy, I was like, what the fuck is that? That is so dumb. And you know what? I kind of wanted to buy it just because it was so ridiculous looking. But I passed. And the fact they sent me this figure for free, now don't misunderstand me, I'm not complaining. I'm very, very happy they sent me this guy for free, as he was kind of on my want list just for weird action figure scenarios or comparisons or who knows what. Some guy getting mutated off Venom. Anyway, as I was doing some research for this video, looking up little clips online, reading about this guy, the show actually looks pretty cool. But as a layman just walking by having no idea about the source material, this looks ridiculous. It looks dumb. It looks goofy. And it even looks goofier in action figure form than it does in the show, and it's supposed to look goofy and over the top stylized, but in plastic form it just comes out even goofier. His face looks goofy, his body looks goofy. So overall, he's just a goofy, ridiculous looking figure that has no real place in my collection, but I'm still kind of happy to have him at the same time. It's weird. Now, this is not even the first Escanor figure that I bought. I bought one, I don't know, probably about a year ago to make into a custom, and I'll show that later in the video. This guy does have purpose as custom fodder, base figure, or just a ridiculous figure for certain scenarios, which is what he's going to be for me. That being said, let's take a look at him. So, starting with his head here, it kind of reminds me of Jim Gordon in some ways. He's got the orange hair, the mustache. The head looks normal, a little bit cartoony, but then you have this giant, ridiculous, oversized, ill-built, oddly proportioned body. And like I said, he's super top-heavy. This thing is heavy. The muscles are, they're done pretty well. But it's just so weird. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pack of abs. For real, look at that. And not only is he just this very strong, muscular guy, it's just way too tall and oddly proportioned. His pants are ripped. He's sort of hulking out there. Like I said, you have to actually bend the knees for him to stand. If they're totally straight, he'll just fall flat on his face. His feet are not really articulated enough to go back at all, and his toes are already loose, so that doesn't help, especially with a guy who's putting a lot of pressure on all the time. So, could have been executed better, that is for sure. But it's weird. It's a figure that's been on my want list for a while. And bam, I buy pretty much only DC figures from the McFarlane toy store, and they include this random quote-unquote damage figure, which had pretty much no damage to him. So all in all, pretty good day for collecting. I now have what I consider the dumbest figure I've ever seen in my collection, and I'll proudly keep him among the others. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt. It's animated, a little bit soft. I mean, it's a good face sculpt, and it doesn't look appropriate on his body at all, and that's part of the point. When he's small, he's very timid, and then when he's on this big body and his powers are active, he's very confident, overconfident. That's his sin. Now let's check out his accessories. He has a display stand. We've seen the McFarlane stand a million times before. This one says the 7 Deadly Sins. Thin, basic. And then we have his axe. This is the Rita. It's kind of like Thor's hammer. It's very, very heavy. He's a little bit stronger when he uses it. And it kind of makes me think of an anchor at the top here. It's got little spikes around the handle. Kind of a wrap. I mean, it looks okay. Like I said, I'm not familiar with the show, so I can't really speak to how it is in there. Not like any axe I've ever seen, that's for sure. Here's Escanor holding his axe kind of casually. It is really hard to put that into his hand. I had to really pry his fingers open, and then it makes him even more top heavy, so you gotta bend his knees even more from just to be able to stand up straight. And here he is, holding that axe in a little bit more of an intimidating pose. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at the figure and its accessories, now for his height. Bottom to the top of his head, standing about 8.3 inches tall, which can translate to just under 22 centimeters. He's a big boy. And now for his articulation. Starting with his head, of course, it can rotate side to side. Can't really look up and down very much, just a littlest bit there. Can tilt his head from side to side at least a little bit. Shoulders on ball joint, goes out way more than 90 degrees. Up, down, around, all that good stuff. He's got this butterfly ring between his shoulder and chest area. You can increase the range of motion a little bit and cover up the gap. It actually comes out pretty good there. Bicep cut. Double jointed elbows. His wrist can rotate and it's hinged. In his torso, he has an ab crunch or a ball joint. Rotate around just a little bit, forward and back, also just a little bit. His waist, another one. Rotate around, it makes a kind of horrible sound. And forward and back. You don't get very much out of that. They probably could have just done without that cut at all. Much more to the waist. Legs, they go out about this far. McFarlane style hip joints. Rotation, barely there at all. Legs go forward. God, that sounded horrible. Freeing up some stuff on this old figure. They only go forward about that far. Back, not much. Double jointed knees, they go all the way back. And they're not as tight as I wish they were, considering how heavy he is. They're going to get really loose over time, I can tell. The ankles don't seem to really do anything. They don't go forward or back. Rotate just a littlest bit. They don't really tilt and rock. And he has toe articulation, which is really loose. And I need that to help support this guy. Here's a look at Escanor swinging that axe. And here's a look at the dumbest action figure ever in a ridiculous pose on a giant seahorse. Works in my head. Now let's check them out. Next to some other action figures. Since I don't have any other 7 Deadly Sins figures, we'll start off by checking him out with the custom made from him, some other figures he kind of reminds me of, and then some action figures from different various companies. A couple years ago, my buddy made this Albert King custom for me. This is the Gotham Goliath from Arkham Knight. He was one of 4 different infected Joker victims. And as you can imagine, he had to make the whole gang for me. We have Henry Adams, Johnny Charisma, of course, Escanor in the middle, and then Albert King and Christina Bell. Escanor here reminds me very specifically of the red-headed Commissioner Jim Gordon. In fact, the face on the figure looks very similar to Jim Gordon on the animated Harley Quinn show. He also kind of gives me an Aquaman vibe. I don't even know why. I guess because he's shirtless and muscular and has an accessory that sort of resembles a trident. I don't know, just when I first saw this figure, I thought, oh, that kind of looks like Aquaman, even though he really doesn't. And here he is, next to all the different McFarlane DC Multiverse Aquaman figures. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how he fits in, both scale and style-wise, in case we will know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a McFarlane toy, they're typically a 7-inch scale, even though this guy's over 8 inches tall. He's a 7-inch scale figure. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect, and work way smaller. But first, let's check him out with some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. in for anywhere 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale, and now with some Jack-specific wrestling figures and some DST or Diamond Select toys. Here he is, next to a plastic bag from the grocery store, and here he is with some DC Direct and NECA figures, then with both some Mattel and Jazzwares wrestling figures, and now with some Mezco and Mattel DC figures, next with some Mafex and Hasbro Marvel Legends, and finally next to some SH Figure Arts and some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. I'm pleased to have this figure in my collection, but I still think he's one of the dumbest figures I've ever seen. The design is hideous, the proportions are horrible, and he just looks ridiculous and goofy. Now, I know there's going to be some fans of the show that are going to completely be offended by my opinion, but that is my opinion. As a layman who wasn't familiar with the show until digging in deep, I thought this was one of the dumbest figures I've ever seen, and to actually have it in my hands surprised me, but an act of God placed it in my hands for free, and here we are. So, the figure itself, the sculpt's not bad. He's just ill-built and looks so weird. His accessory, it's hard to get into his hand. His hand is way too tight, needs to be a little bit gummier. And the display stand, and nothing to really say about that. Articulation's pretty good. Too top-heavy. The ankles don't move at all. The toes are too loose. You have to bend his knees to stand him up straight. Definitely was not really designed very well. They could have done a better job balancing him out, that sort of stuff. His accessory, his axe, it's pretty cool, and it's definitely an accessory you need for this character. Sculpt and paint job, no real problems there. If I were to rate this guy, I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10, and I'm only giving him a 5 instead of a 4 because he's just kind of fun and goofy. But he's also absolutely stupid looking. So what do you guys think? You walk by this thing in the wild, do you think, oh, that's pretty cool? Or do you think, oh my god, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen? Because I think it's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. But that makes me proudly have it in my collection, as having just a ridiculous figure could be a lot of fun. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.